Hey everybody, once again, TBI Guy Speaks, Chad Kloshman here, working on things to do or things you can work on to improve yourself after going through something such as a traumatic brain injury or a bodily dismemberment or lack of function in something, you know, those goofy things, which I have the glorious ability to describe both because I suffer from both, as you should all know. And if you recall last week, I said this week we're going to talk about dating and relationships. Oh, fun, fun, fun. This might be spread out into 3 different sections because my producer, aka my wife, said that that's the way we should do it. Now, first off, the way we're going to take care of this is I'm going to read what she wrote and then we will comment on it from there. And without further ado, this is the information that my wife thinks needs to be on here that's important. And I'll agree with her because she's the one that does not have a head injury like I have.
Most of these you told me about.
Okay, most of these I told her about. Okay, dating and relationships. First, work on building, strengthening, and fostering your relationship with God first. Know your worth, value, identity in God's eyes, and that's important. See, I got to mark my spot here. That's important because, you know, a lot of times we get this feeling that we are no longer worthy, that we are just a nobody now, and the old person that we used to be is gone forever. Well, no, not really. So don't give yourself that attitude. I had that for a long time because that's the way it was. That was just something that was in my head, thinking that, well, what am I now? And at the time I was labeled by society as a disabled guy, which we know my thoughts on this, we're all disabled. I had no real job. I was collecting unemployment disability, I was collecting disability from the government, so I had a very low self-esteem. Moving on from there. As we were talking about, this will help you love yourself and see yourself through a clear lens. It is important because who you are as a member in Christ's body, the church, and your faith in His in His will for in His will for your life are of utmost importance.
Why don't you restate that, because that was fuddled.
It's because I don't read very well now that I have a blind eye.
Okay.
So it takes me more. Okay, it is important because who you are as a member of Christ's body, aka the church, and your faith in His will for your life are of utmost importance. This relationship determines the health of all other relationships and determines your self-worth. Not a whole lot I need to really say on that because that's pretty much the way it is. And like I said before, we get this negative approach about ourselves. It just happens. And then when we see society looking at us differently and claiming that we're disabled, which annoys me to all get out because everybody's disabled. Don't care who you are. We know this route. We know this word. Next thing, focus on finding friendship at the same time as finding who you may one day choose to marry or have a relationship with. Being married to the person who is also my best friend makes our love longer lasting, deeper, and for more healthy and enjoyable.
Far more.
Man. It looks like 4, but
you should have written it if you want to be able to read it.
Yeah, but see, you said I needed to go by these things because they are of utmost importance, and they are. And I don't always think of that stuff. So
and see, best friends can talk like this.
Exactly. And call each other names.
I didn't call you a name.
But you do. Anywho, know the difference between falling in love and lust. Also, know that falling in love will not last forever. You will... What?
Yep, it's truth. You stop falling eventually.
That's right, you hit rock bottom. Been there, done that. Okay. You will stop falling at some point. It is the word love that has deeper meaning. Remember that love is not just a feeling or an emotion. Love is a choice. This is true. I choose to love my wife because she loves me. And there's other reasons too, but that just sounds funnier. She chooses to love me, and I'm not worthy. Actually,
stop.
I am worthy. It's just that thought we have about ourselves. Moving on. Avoid focusing on the superficial aspects of people while dating. That's huge, because maybe at one time we were top of the class of the dating world and was dating anybody and everybody that we wanted to. I mean, I was never on that level, but we might think of, well, I used to date people like, and it goes along with that same thing of I used to be the one, or I used to be able to do. You got to remember, the past is the past. Don't worry about that, because the most important thing about a person anyways is not the outside. The outside changes. The inside is what stays the same. I don't care how much money you have. Look at Joan Rivers. Millions of dollars on plastic surgery and everything else, and she just looks like a...
Yep,
I can't say anything. Anywho, moving on. Find a person whose mind intrigues you, because the mind is something that definitely does not change. For the most part.
It can improve.
It can improve. This is true.
It can deteriorate.
See? So that just means
But for the most part, a person's mind doesn't change.
Moving on. Find common ground, so you can enjoy each other's company more. You don't have to have the same list of, I don't know what that word is, likes and preferences, but you should have enough in common to enjoy downtime too, which is very, very true. My wife and I, Emily and I, my producer and I, and it's all the same person. I don't listen. We're not talking about three people here. All same person. We have a lot in common as far as our sense of humor and just
the important stuff.
The important stuff. But then she gives less than a rat's butt about cars and
NASCAR.
But she tolerates it. Don't get me wrong here. She will deal with it and help me out a little bit if I need it or whatever. She'll ride in the old car. She'll even drive the old car and put it into the side of the garage.
You forgave me for that. I
did. Anyways, and I will go and buy her tickets to go to a theater show or an opera. Once in a while, it's not my cup of tea, but I will do it because I love her and I love to see her happy. And if I can make her happy doing that, she'll make me happy doing something else. It's just one of those things. It's give and take.
So
you gotta have give and take.
You go to Phantom of the Opera and Wicked, and I go to a NASCAR race.
Right, which actually, those two combined equaled one of the other. And that's, never mind.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Have fun, laugh, and don't forget. I was gonna say don't forget, not fart, but that would be kind of. And just to let you know.
No, don't even.
Have fun, laugh, and don't focus too much on serious topics until you are ready to discuss them together, which is pretty important too, because eventually you need to be on the same ground for a lot of things. And I would say the number one thing is parenting, because if you're not on the same page with your other, then when you're raising kids, it won't work, because you'll have one saying one thing, the other saying another thing. Then the kid's going to pick the one who gives them the best answer, and that's the one they'll go to for that answer.
But what we're talking about right now is really dating. So when you talk about the serious things, make sure you've been together long enough that you can openly and honestly discuss the serious things. Because if you start the first date with the serious things, you can push somebody away.
Okay.
Doesn't that make sense?
Yes, it makes sense.
Okay.
Examples for dates. Avoid negativity, gossip, and pet peeves. Yeah.
If
early
somebody
on,
if somebody
definitely.
is chewing too loud, you don't want to say, "Hey, you're chewing too loud on your first date."
This is probably true.
Which is both of our pet peeves.
Yes. Luckily, neither one of us do that.
and
What? Unfortunately, though, when I do drink, if it's quiet, you can hear me swallow.
it's annoying.
See?
And when I chew on mints.
And she chews on mints. She's...
It's an
The
extreme.
mints are made to suck on, not chew on.
That
If they
is-
were to chew on, they'd be chewy. Moving on.
I like the crunch.
Avoid focusing on the past. You can't change it or get it back. And I'm guilty as all get out on that. And I found that out the hard way, kind of, but it was a good way. I went out on a date with a woman, one of my first dates after I got back into the dating scene, and I thought we had a great time. And I met her online, and date went pretty well. Went out to eat. I think we ended up going back to her place and talking and stuff, but she didn't want a second date, and I was curious as to why, because I thought everything went well. Well, she was nice enough to tell me that I focused on my past too much. My marriage that was gone, my past abilities and jobs and all of the things that made me who I used to be, not who I am now. That is a big one. I mean, you can't focus on who you used to be because you're not going to be that person again. And leaving the old relationships in the past is very, very vital. As a matter of fact, when I met my producer, my wife, my commentator in the background, and mostly the author of this stuff, that was something I told her on the very first date. I said, I may bring up things from the past. I don't do it intentionally for any good reason. It's just habit. Just tell me to stop if I do that, because that's not what I want to do. But we sometimes get focused on that stuff, and it just happens to come shooting out our mouths without the real intention. And my mouth moves twice as fast as my brain does, if you haven't figured that out by yet, or haven't figured out yet, or by now.
You just, that was
See, right.
case in point.
Prime example. Anyways, moving on. Don't talk about prior relationships too much. Don't talk about, and that's good or bad, because you don't want to set them up for failure, saying that this part was great, so this is what you have to meet up to, or too bad to where you just sound like a downer that's tearing somebody apart.
Yep.
Either
Comparison can be a thief of joy.
Exactly. And then don't try to live in the past, which I kind of had just been talking about, and be or act like or focus on who you used to be or what you used to be able to do. Be who you are right now. So important. Like I said, there was a lot of things about me in the past that were a lot different than the way they are now. Talking like this? Nah, I've always been like that. But, just my abilities and accomplishments, and yeah, I had some really great accomplishments from the past, and exciting things that could have changed my life 180 degrees had I taken them opportunities, like going to West Point.
Okay.
But at the same rate, I look at things I do now and see them like, okay, if I'm changing the oil in my car or my wife's car, if I'm changing the brakes on my car or my wife's car or my family's cars, whatever. Those are things I can do now. Yes, I could do them before, but now it's even more of an accomplishment because I do it with one arm. So I focus on that and what I can do to help people out. Something like this, something I can help out with. And I love doing it because I feel that I have enough information from what I've lived through for the past 18 years to help people out that maybe this is new for them or maybe it isn't and they just haven't seen it from this aspect or angle that I'm bringing it to you on. So, that being said, that's going to be the first part of the dating and relationship game series, and we will continue on next week. And remember, TBIGuySpeaks.com. Oh, no, gosh darn it. See, I get these confused because there's so many things. TBIGuySpeaks.webs.com, TBI Guy Speaks on YouTube, and TBI Guy Speaks on Facebook. All three of them. Like them, love them, share them. Peace out and have a great week, and we will talk to you next week.